Congratulations, true crime addicts. We've survived another week. It is Friday, August 29th, 2025. This week, tragedy in Minneapolis. Donna Adelson is the worst mother-in-law on the planet. And Lil Nas X knows how to party. All this and more. Stay tuned.
Yes, super excited. We are all pumped to have James Renner.
James Renner on.
That James Renner has zeroed in on.
James Renner once again drops a bombshell.
Investigative journalist, reporter James Renner, who's been on the podcast, longtime friend of mine.
And welcome back to True Crime This Week with me, your host, James Renner. Hey, thanks for being here. As always, on Friday mornings, I bring you the true crime stories you might have missed during the week. You don't have to watch the news. Just come here once a week. I'll fill you in on everything true crime that you might have missed. And off the bat here, I do want to talk to kind of a reminder. I have been producing some special episodes of True Crime this week about the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley, which a lot of you have watched the documentary now and are obsessed with, just like me. My next book is actually about the case. It comes out next summer. But in the meantime, I'm releasing some information through my YouTube channel and sometimes this podcast. But if you're only listening to this podcast, you might want to jump over to my YouTube channel for True Crime This Week. I've got a statement there from Oscar Alexander, the roommate to Alistair Douglas, who is the quote-unquote suspect in the case. I also have an interview with Alistair himself, the first and only interview in like 20 years. I had to fly to Grenada to get it. It was crazy. There's interviews with Kat Lovelace, Amy's partner from college, and a very interesting interview with a person who served on Royal Caribbean cruise lines around the same time Amy disappeared, and he had some very interesting things to say about how there was a drug running operation amongst the crew on some of those ships anyway. So check it out if you get a chance. As always, I want to thank my buddy Walter for manning the camera. Walter's just back from Taylor Swift's engagement party. He's absolutely covered in glitter. It's annoying. But thanks for being here, Walter. Let's jump to the top stories. There's a lot going on this week. The new school year started this week, and we already have our first school shooting. On Wednesday morning, 23-year-old Robin Westman shot and killed 2 children at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis before turning the gun on herself and dying by suicide. It was the first week of classes at this private school, and children were gathered for Mass around 8:15 a.m. when Westman, dressed in black, approached the church and began firing through stained glass windows with a rifle, a shotgun, and a handgun. Police responded immediately, but the shooter was already dead when they arrived. 2 children, age 8 and 10, were killed and 18 others were injured. 116 rifle rounds and 3 shotgun shells were found at the scene. As always, armchair quarterbacks took to social media to offer opinions about the tragedy immediately. Conservatives called for thoughts and prayers. This did not sit well with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who said, quote, "Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. They were in a church," end quote. In the days since the shooting, we've already learned a lot about Westman and her motives. Most notably, Westman had a personal connection to Annunciation Catholic School. Her mother used to work at the church, and Westman had attended school there, according to ABC News. It was also learned that Westman had purchased the arsenal of weapons legally shortly before the shootings. It also appears that Westman had created YouTube videos that had been scheduled to be released after the event. The videos showed her flipping through handwritten journals that showed drawings of weapons and other crazy things. She'd also written messages on the guns used in the killings, which included phrases like "kill Donald Trump" and anti-Semitic rants like 6 million wasn't enough. She also wrote the names of other mass shooters like Adam Lanza on the weapons. There's a statistic that I'm reminded of every time someone shoots up a school in this country. It's the statistic for the number of guns per person. In England, for instance, there are 4.6 guns for every 100 citizens. In the United States, there are 120 guns for every 100 citizens. We are the only country in the world with more guns than people. The next closest on that list is the Falkland Islands with 62 guns. For every 100 citizens, we have almost twice as many guns as the second place country on that list. Call me crazy, but thoughts and prayers don't seem to be working. Are you following the trial of Donna Adelson in Tallahassee, out of Tallahassee, Florida? Holy moly, what a case. You're going to need some background on this one, though, if you're not caught up. Dan Markle was a Canadian attorney and law professor who fell in love with a real femme fatale, a fellow law professor named Wendy Adelson. They got married, had 2 sons, but Wendy's family never liked Dan. And when the marriage fell apart, they blamed him. Wendy's family was from the Miami area, and after the divorce, she wanted to move with the kids down there. But Dan didn't want to lose his children, of course, and so he fought her in court and won. She wasn't allowed to leave with the kids. She could go if she wanted, but she couldn't take the kids with her. This did not please the Adelsons. Around 11 a.m. on July 18, 2014, someone shot and killed Dan at his home. And for nearly 2 years, the case went unsolved. But the Tallahassee police detectives were hard at work reviewing surveillance footage and investigating the Adelson family, who had the most to gain from his murder. Then, on May 26, 2016, is that right? Yeah, 2016. 2 years later, 34-year-old Sigfredo Garcia was arrested and charged with Dan's murder. Detectives had linked Garcia to the crime through his cell phone and also through toll collection records, as well as security camera footage. Garcia had an accomplice who was also arrested. His name is Luis Rivera, a former leader of Miami's Latin Kings gang. Now here's the connection to Adelson's case. Garcia had 2 children with a woman named Catherine Magbunua. I'm going to say Magbunua. I know I'm butchering that name, right? Like, come on. And so Garcia had 2 children with this woman named Catherine, right? Catherine was in a personal relationship with Wendy's brother, Charlie. And after the killings, the Adelsons, paid Catherine a large amount of money. Super sus, right? So Garcia, Rivera, Catherine, and Charlie have all since been convicted in the conspiracy and are now in prison. So now you're up to speed. So what we have going on this week is Wendy's mother, Donna, is on trial. The state accuses Donna of being one of the masterminds behind this murder-for-hire plot. And on Monday of this week, Wendy took the stand to testify against her mother. She has an immunity deal with prosecutors that keeps them from using her testimony against her if she's ever charged in this case, which is seeming more and more likely as time goes by. This according to the Tallahassee Democrat. During her testimony, Wendy said she did not know about the plot against her husband. But then yesterday, Wendy's ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Lacasse, took the stand. He was dating Wendy at the time of Dan's murder, and he believes Wendy not only knew about the murder plot, but that she was trying to position him as a good suspect for police to focus on. Lacasse said that Wendy asked him where he intended to be on July 18th. That's the day of Dan's murder. And he told her at the time that he had plans to drive to Atlanta, which just so happened to be the route that the killers took to leave town after the shooting. He also talked about how Wendy mentioned a possible murder plot to him in conversation one day. Quote, "Can I tell you something confidentially?" he recalled her saying. "Last summer, my brother looked into all options possible to take care of the Danny Markle problem, including hiring a hitman, and it would cost about $15,000, end quote. Donna faces life in prison if convicted, and a permanent place in the Worst In-Laws Hall of Fame. Australian police are currently searching for a fugitive who shot and killed two police officers before fleeing into the bush on Tuesday in a rare story of gun violence in a country with very few guns. Around 10:30 a.m. Tuesday, 10 police officers were sent to a property in Porapunka, which is in northeast Victoria, and they were there to execute a search warrant. Now, the officers that made up this group of 10 police officers were from the Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse team, according to The Guardian. Draw your own conclusions there. The property was owned by 56-year-old Dezi Freeman, who is described as a sovereign citizen. You know, those crazy people who think by claiming sovereign citizenship they don't have to follow the law. It's a whole thing on the weird side of the internet if you haven't explored it. Dezi lives in a bus on that property along with his wife and children. So when officers arrived, Dezi just opened fire. The officers killed were 59-year-old Neil Thompson and 35-year-old Vadim DeWart. A third officer was wounded. Dezi then fled into the bush, and police have been searching for him ever since. Now, that area is quite rural, and there are many nooks and crannies where Dezi can hide out, and he's apparently well trained in survival skills, like a lot of these nuts are. So the manhunt continues down under. Also, the last place I want to be hiding out is Australia. Like, everything in the bush can kill you, right? And they got the spiders and the jellyfish, not that they're in the bush, but like, and drop bears. Like, it's insane over there. So, anyways, we'll see if he ever shows up. I have lots more after the break. We got to get to Lil Nas X and the Menendez brothers and some weird news. Lots more coming up after the break. I'll be back in 2 and 2.
Please hang up and try again.
And we're back with more True Crime This Week, brought to you by Stay Puffed Marshmallows. Stays puffed, even when roasted. Just like me. Lil Nas X is having a rough week. The industry baby was caught star-walking naked down Old Town Road last Thursday. See what I did there? According to BuzzFeed, LAPD officers received reports of a naked man walking down Ventura Boulevard around 6 a.m. last Thursday. When police responded, they discovered it was none other than the famous rapper who appeared to be under the influence of some pretty powerful stuff. They alleged that Lil Nas X then charged at them and assaulted an officer. He was charged with 3 counts of battery and 1 count of resisting an executive officer, all felonies. He has pleaded not guilty and faces up to 5 years in prison. Unfortunately, Lil Nas responded by posting a fake apology video in which he stated that he wanted his haters and their tears to fill up his Grammy cup. In Lil Nas's defense, walking nude down Ventura Boulevard while under the influence of drugs is every Californian's God-given right. In the last few days, both Lyle and Eric Menendez were both denied parole, and I hope you're as sad about that as I am. The Menendez brothers were sentenced to life in prison for the 1989 murders of their parents, Jose and Kitty. Their trial was a media storm back then, and the media got it wrong. As the years have gone by, more and more evidence has come out that supports the story that the brothers have always told, that their father was a sadist who had raped them for many years. They still have a chance at freedom, though. With good behavior, they can try for parole again in 18 months. California Governor Gavin Newsom could also commute or pardon their sentences at any time, according to ABC News, and that looks more and more likely every day. Best of luck to those two. The investigation into the August 20th murder of comedian Reggie Carroll took a dramatic turn this week. On Monday, police in South Haven, Mississippi, identified the suspect they had arrested as Trenell Williams, who provides security for comedian Cat Williams, according to The Guardian. Reggie Carroll had gone on tour with Cat Williams, and the home where Reggie was killed is also the address for Cat Williams' clothing line. So there's obviously some connections there. Trenell has now been charged with murder. So far, police have not suggested a motive for the killing. This is by far the worst news Cat Williams has ever received, other than that time his agent told him to take a part in the film Norbit. A Wisconsin man who faked his own death was sentenced to jail on Wednesday. 45-year-old Ryan Borgwart told his wife that he was going kayaking on Green Lake on August 12, 2024. They had been married 22 years and had 3 kids together. But then he never returned home, and his kayak was discovered overturned in the lake, leading his family to believe that he was dead. Police became suspicious when they discovered that he had recently renewed his passport. Eventually, they discovered that Borgwart had met a woman from Uzbekistan online and had faked his death to fly overseas to live with her. When they tracked him down, he agreed to return to the States to face charges of obstruction. He was ordered to pay $30,000, and the judge sentenced him to 89 days in jail, which is exactly the amount of time he was pretending to be dead. You know what's a lot cheaper and a hell of a lot safer? Divorce. Let's jump over to weird news, shall we? It was only a matter of time. On Wednesday, Deadline reported that the trial of Karen Reed will be the subject of a new TV series to air on Prime Video. Justin Noble, who wrote for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, will serve as showrunner, and Elizabeth Banks is on board to play Karen Reed. And since nobody asked me, here are my suggestions for the rest of the main cast. Alan Jackson should be played by Christian Bale. Michael Proctor should be played by J.K. Simmons. Jen McCabe should be played by Caitlyn Jenner. Kelly Dever should be played by Jenna Ortega, Natch. Turtle Boy should be played by the Muppet Bunsen Honeydew. And Judge Beverly Cannoni should obviously be played by Edna Mode from The Incredibles. You're welcome, Hollywood. Over to pop culture. Is everybody watching the Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox on Hulu? You should be. The miniseries premiered on August 20th and is produced by Knox and Monica Lewinsky? Okay. The series follows Amanda Knox, played by Grace Van Patten, who arrives in Italy for her study abroad only to be wrongfully imprisoned for murder weeks later. The series traces Amanda's relentless fight to prove her innocence and reclaim her freedom, and examines why authorities in the world stood so firmly in judgment. Check it out. And it's always good to see Amanda getting some recognition. She's a good person. Makes some great content, too. The True Crime Book of the Week this week is, it's going to be new. It's out on Tuesday, just a couple days from now. Go out and buy it. It's called Expert Witness, and it was written by Dr. Ann Burgess and Stephen Matthew Constantine. Here's the write-up. Written through Burgess's singular lens of compassion and lived experience, Expert Witness pulls back the curtain on some of the biggest cases in the last 30 years, from Bill Cosby to the Menendez brothers to Larry Nassar, to reveal the deeply human stories behind the trials that have captivated a nation. The book explores the role of expert witnesses in high-stakes court cases, offering first-hand accounts and never-before-seen interviews with attorneys, victims, and offenders. Expert Witness places readers inside the minds of the nation's most prominent courtroom expert, following Burgess as she takes on one seismic case after the next. Throughout the narrative, each case deepens the reader's understanding of the art and science of expert testimony, taking readers from the women's movement of the 1970s to the Me Too movement of today, one of the largest social reckonings in recent history. At its core, Expert Witness is a story of empowerment. It is a story of compassion and the ever-increasing need for individuals to stand up and speak truth to power or to popular opinion. And it's ultimately a story of how revolutionary one voice can be. Check it out, Expert Witness. You'll learn all about Dr. Ann Burgess. Good stuff. And that is the show for this week. We're done. Hey, I am off next week because I'll be in Denver for CrimeCon. If you're at CrimeCon, come and say hello. I'll be at a table selling some books and meeting people and having social anxiety. So, in the meantime, in the words of the incomparable Murray Saul, the godfather of Cleveland radio, we gotta get down. True Crime This Week is a Fearful Symmetry production. Photo and artwork are licensed through Shutterstock. If you like the cut of my jib, I have another podcast you might enjoy called The Philosophy of Crime, in which I attempt to solve the big questions behind our true crime obsession by looking to philosophy for answers. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Sit, Brownie, sit. Good dog.